Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from The Federalist. This is dated September 10th, and it is entitled, Kamala Harris is the real threat to our constitutional republic. And that should be obvious to anyone that's ever heard her say anything prior to the last couple of months when she's gone back on everything or all of her old policy positions that she used to have. So let's go through this. And it says, Harris's policies promise to wreck our Constitution and threaten our republic. And well, helps that, or I should say it doesn't help that she's a commie. That's part of the problem. This is Dick Cheney went from despised war criminal to the left's new bestie on Friday when the former vice president announced he was voting for Kamala Harris. She's a traitor. Because Cheney justified his decision by claiming in our nation's 248-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. You know, because he was in office before and wasn't a threat at all. And Dick Cheney apparently has decided he's just going to believe the media instead of like what actually happened. So he lives in apparently that same leftist fantasy world that MSNBC lives in. Good for him. Because Cheney's rhetoric ignores reality, as I just said, both what Trump actually did when he was president and, again, what I just said, and what the Harris-Walz ticket proposes to do. And it is the Democrat ticket's policies that represent the actual threat to our constitutional republic. Here are three clear examples. Numero uno, number one, free speech. It says, freedom of speech is so fundamental to our constitutional republic that the founding generation prohibited government infringement on that right in the First Amendment. However, since Donald Trump's surprise victory in 2016 launched the censorship industrial complex, the government has been moving aggressively to silence speech. And the consequences of government censorship can be devastating, as Americans learned in the context of COVID, when our government hid or minimized the dangers of vaccines and deprived citizens of a fulsome debate over mandatory masking and school closures. And now that I said this magic word, I'm sure we're going to have a community note on this video and whatever. It says Donald Trump has promised to end the federal government's efforts to censor speech, pledging last week to sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. It's amazing that that needs to be said, but I hate to break it to folks out there that are like, no, he shouldn't do that. The government should be able to do those things. Well, there's a word for what that means when the government is advising organizations, businesses, to do those. Go look it up. You're not going to like what you find. It says Trump further committed to banning federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis or disinformation and to firing federal bureaucrats responsible for domestic censorship activities. Good. He should. Those people, you don't like our rules? Well, that's our Constitution. Well, but you're not going to play by them? Well, you don't need to have a job in the government. It says, conversely, Harris's track record shows she's the enemy of our most fundamental liberty, free speech. As Betsy McGaughey, probably said that wrong, and I'm sorry if I did, the former lieutenant governor of New York, detailed in a recent article for the New York Post, Harris chose her as her deputy campaign manager, Rob Flaherty, formerly the White House director of digital strategy, the person who called the shots about what got censored under President Biden. Oh, so that's a person that should not be anywhere near the levers of power. Because during her failed primary run in 2019, then Senator Harris also pressured Jack Dorsey, the then CEO of Twitter, to deplatform Donald Trump. The California senator justified her call for a ban by claiming Trump used his platform. Sorry, I looked at my TV for a second. I lost my place. Used his platform being the president of the United States in a way that has been about inciting fear and potentially inciting harm against a witness to what might be a crime against our country and our democracy. Oh, shut up. It says, with Twitter, now X, and owned by Elon Musk, President Harris may not succeed in silencing her political opponents at that outlet, at least not directly. But Democrats are already positing solutions to the problem of Musk. For instance, Robert Reich, which is a very fitting last name for him, who served as a labor secretary under Bill Clinton, proposed the Federal Trade Commission sue Musk if the owner of X refuses to take down lies that are likely to endanger individuals. And keep in mind, Robert Reich is a leftist, and anything he says like this just means stuff I don't like that people are saying, not that it's actually incorrect. So finishing off this section, it says, and if Harris wins the White House, she'll control the Federal Trade Commission and the priorities of that and the dozens of other federal agencies, making the risk to free speech rights a clear and present danger. Good movie, by the way, Clear and Present Danger. Go watch it if you haven't. So number two, Supreme Court. So the Harris presidency also threatens the separation of powers established by our Constitution. In Article 3 of the Constitution, the founders sought to guarantee an independent judiciary by providing for lifetime appointments. Harris had previously spoken favorably of her then-running mate Joe Biden's proposed reforms to the Supreme Court, which included establishing term limits for the justices. None of this should happen. So before taking over the top of the ticket for Democrats, Harris also reportedly told the New York Times she was absolutely open to packing the high court. Again, should not happen. So such court packing would consist of Congress first increasing the number of justices on the Supreme Court and then President Harris appointing several new justices. And you could say goodbye to any. This is basically one-party rule. This would be a dictatorship, essentially, a one-party rule. Yep. So a little bit of totalitarianism thrown in there for you. So that's what we want to have. So that's what you're going to get, folks, if you're voting for Kamala, because she's the brat, or because she's black, or because she's the woman. Like, this is what you're ushering in. It's one-party rule. It never ends well for anybody, even you. So it says, as the Constitution does not set the number of justices at 9, Democrat control of both Congress and the executive branch would allow for the Supreme Court to be reconstituted with members whose politics Harris favors. A court-packing plan, however, would destroy the independence of the judiciary on which our constitutional order depends. Correct. And 3, the border. It says our constitutional order also depends on a secure border, for no country can survive if it cannot, or will not, repeal an invasion. See Rome, ancient. Or I should say, see Empire, Roman. Is probably more accurate. It says, yet the Biden-Harris administration has shown it has no regard for the citizens of this country, putting the interest of foreign aliens illegally entering the United States above those of Americans. Yes, and that pisses me off quite a bit. It says, the massive influx of illegal aliens threatens our country in multiple ways, from the physical violence inflicted by criminals to potential threats from terrorists who enter through our porous border, to disease and overrun healthcare systems, to the financial devastation caused by the flood of migrants. You want to know a big reason why there's as much inflation, or I shouldn't say inflation, but like housing prices are skyrocketing and stuff like that? Well, here's your reason. And Harris promises more of the same, while Trump instead has committed to securing the border and deporting those here illegally. For all their talk of Trump being a threat to democracy, Americans already experienced the Trump administration, and not only did our country not crumble, it thrived. In contrast, the Biden-Harris administration wrought skyrocketing inflation, a flood of illegal immigration, and a world at war. And when it comes to policies, it is those that Harris supports that promise to wreck our constitutional republic, not Donald Trump's pledges to secure the border, stop the attack on free speech, and leave the courts alone. So very good there. It just 3 things, but those are 3 necessary things that this absolute crap hole of a human being is going to do. And guys, I'm telling you, if she wins, we are in for a very, very bad time. And I don't even want to tell you what to expect. So go vote for Trump. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon.